upcoming guest is a born-in Jehovah's Witness. She was baptized at age 9 based on fear of losing her life at Armageddon. She was homeschooled from grades 9 through 12, straight A student, excellent writer, and she even turned down a singing contract. She was making decisions based on bad information. In the upcoming episode, she's going to talk about the reasons why, when she felt trapped in a loveless marriage, she felt that the only solution to her problems was to try to end her life. So please join me as I'm already in progress speaking with Tujuana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. It is a pleasure to be here.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So after this period of time, kind of like blows over, and you decide, okay, so no singing is going to be in my future. What are you now contemplating doing with your life?
Well, pioneering. I mean, what else was there as a woman, I just was thinking about, I did a little going where the need is great type of stuff and little things like that, because I was really, like I said, struggling. I was struggling so much with trying to stay faithful. I just felt like I was going the opposite direction. So I was trying to, once I turned it down, I was really trying to just engulf myself in all of the activities so that I wouldn't go astray. So I started doing all of that. And then I started getting to this place where I was ready to get married, or so I thought. A lot of people do that at a young age. And so I ended up getting engaged at about, I think I was 19. And actually, that didn't work out. We got close. We had the invitation sent out. We had the place reserved. We had everything together. And 3 weeks before, he called it off. He said he wasn't really ready, and he didn't feel like he was a man. And he was actually a little bit younger. So I'm 19. He was younger than me. But he called it off, and I was hurt. And I really, thinking back, think that it was because I was just ready to, give in to my to my desires at that point. I was more upset about that. I mean, I loved him, but it was something, probably a little bit more to it. So anyway, called that off. And then that just kind of made it a lot worse because my hormones was just all over the place. So I was just trying to stick close to the organization. And then I ended up getting married to somebody else. So that's kind of where I got to at that point.
How much time lapses before you end up in another relationship?
I would say probably about a year. But I ran into this particular person probably 6 months after my engagement was called off. And it was like we were friends growing up. He had moved out of town. And so I just was driving and I seen him. And then we just kind of reconnected, but as friends. So we were just kind of friends hanging out. But then we start getting close to making mistakes. And so this is where we started going into trying to take it into that more serious direction. So
this person that you met, that you eventually married, you guys grew up together, you're saying?
We kind of, yeah. Around our early teens is when we met.
Okay.
And we were just friends. We were always friends.
Okay. And how long did you guys date before you got married?
That is so funny. No time at all. Probably about 9 months or something like that.
Well, that's a little bit longer than most people, because most people, they doing good to get to 6 months. Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess I did something. I don't know, but
you added another 3 months in there.
Yeah.
So what was it like being married? When you finally got married, is it what you thought?
No, not at all. It's not just that marriage wasn't what I thought. It was that he wasn't what I thought. Okay. It was very evident after like 3 weeks to a month of being married to him. I was just like, what? Oh my goodness. What did I do? I was just so in like confused. Like he was a totally different person. But what ended up coming out that I didn't know is that he had a lot of emotional issues. He just had a lot of stuff going on within himself. He was a witness, obviously, growing up, but his mom had kicked him out the house because he was a bad influence on his brother and just different stuff. He had a lot of negative feelings about all of that. And he just was just an emotional wreck and very depressed. And I did not know this somehow until after we got married.
Now, you know something? I want to back up just a second, because one of the things that we always talk about is Jehovah's Witness marriages and different things like that. But did you guys ever get any marriage counseling before you got married?
Really? You know that is not, that's not how we do things.
That's exactly right. And that's why I'm asking that question.
I know.
I want you to think about this. No, that's a good, I like your response. But here's the thing. Let me say this. When you listen to other people, other religions, like my in-laws, they do my aunt-in-law, you know, she's like a pastor in a church. Her and her husband, they co-pastor together.
Okay.
And so whenever people get married, they got to go to like marriage counseling before they get married.
Yeah.
And they kind of like go through these steps of what to expect. And I don't know exactly, because I've never been to a marriage counseling session before marriage either. So I'm with you. But when you think about it, no one ever really prepares Jehovah's Witnesses for marriage, because it's always one of those things where Jehovah is the third cord in your relationship.
Yeah.
But you never know. And the only way that cord manifests itself is through the Watchtower. Right. So the Watchtower says, you know, are you going out in service? Are you at all your meetings? Are you reading your magazines? Are you knocking on enough doors? And that's all the marriage counseling that you need. Right. And so when you begin to think about the problems that you're encountering, you're like, oh my God. So now we've established the fact that is not part of the culture with Jehovah's Witnesses. Now you're married to this man who has all of this emotional baggage, and you're waking up. Now, who's the first person you call to talk about this with? Or do you call anybody?
I don't remember the first person I called, but definitely I talked about my best friend at the time. I talked about it to some of the sisters in the congregation that I felt close to. I talked about it to elders, and they all said the same exact thing, which is, I'm sure you already know. Pray to Jehovah, read this article, go out and service more. Everybody said the same thing. And I'm like, okay, but do you not understand that before I came and talked to you, I did all that and it's not working. None of that stuff is working. So it was interesting, but that's what I talked to several people, and I was praying all the time. I was praying. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be here. He's making me depressed, and I'm not a depressed type of person. So this is just it's not good. It's not good.
Not good at all. But you know, the other thing that's really interesting is when you think about like just being in these relationships, right? Just think about how, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we're always taught to only hang around other Jehovah's Witnesses. And so when you went to all of these people, different people, you know, they probably had different circumstances, different upbringings. They all came from different types of households and stuff like that. But they all had that one thing in common, and that is steering the person back to the Watchtower's solution to everything. Can you imagine?
Like the same person I was talking to.
Exactly. One conglomerate person, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if you would have been talking to somebody that was not a Jehovah's Witness? What your conversation would have been like?
It would have been, no, but I'm sure I can't imagine. Yes, it would have been completely different. They would have actually given me some real advice that I would have been able to use and put into practice. I mean, I got absolutely no real advice. I already know the things that they were telling me, being raised in the organization. So it was nothing new. So somebody would have been able to tell me something practical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad because, we actually believe that, we got to do every single thing according to what they say. Even what you're saying, that when you got baptized at a young age and then you started to get older, and then now you're trying to keep yourself to do what's right and not get into any trouble, because of the Watchtower way. But imagine what your life could have been like if you could have just been focused on your books or going to college, or, having that energy channeled to doing something that would really make a difference in your future.
Yeah, it would have been beautiful. I can't imagine what my life would have ended up being, but I definitely would have been able to develop a lot earlier. It took me so much longer because I had to kind of backtrack, but I would have been able to be the woman that I was supposed to be a lot sooner, I believe, because of that. If I would have gotten to do that, to focus on those things.
Yeah. Instead of getting sidetracked into this relationship, because you connected with your husband because you had all these things in common, right?
Right.
But you never thought to check do a mental check on him. Did he seem like he was doing well on the surface?
He seemed like he was well on the surface, but when you say all these things in common, I mean, I had all those things in common with every other witness. So it wasn't anything distinct about him. You see what I mean? Because it's just, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. This is our lifestyle. This is what we do Saturdays. I mean, that's what we had in common. It wasn't really much else besides that. And then also, both of us were trying to maintain our integrity and stay faithful. So that was another thing we had in common. Neither one of us wanted to get disfellowshipped or whatever. So that's also what prompted us to get together. But no, I didn't look at what was your life like? How did you grow up in your relationship with your mom? Like the normal questions that people would ask if they're getting married forever. I didn't think to ask any of that. It's just like, you're a Jehovah Witness, like you are stable, because all Jehovah's Witnesses are stable. That's the mentality I had. It just
exactly. It's like, you could check this box, I could check that box. He meets this standard. He's baptized. He goes to the meetings.
Yep.
And comment, so all that stuff is in check. And so it's like, I don't got to worry about whether he's mentally sane, whether he's going to work a job, whether he's going to be good for my kids when we have kids, whether he's going to, do everything that a husband needs to do to make a relationship work. You're not even thinking about that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And when they say equally, what is it? Equally yoked, or what is it? Isn't it equally?
Well, they always say that you don't want to be unevenly yoked.
Unevenly yoked. See, I don't remember all that little terminology, but yes.
Yeah.
So to me at the time, evenly yoked was just us both being witnesses and wanting to stay witnesses and serve Jehovah. But really, the evenly yoked or unevenly yoked is more a person who you have nothing in common with. It's not just the spiritual. They always just make it seem like if they're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're unevenly yoked. But it's way more to that, as people who are married understand. Like you could be unevenly yoked, have the same religious belief, but because you don't have anything in common and you're going in different directions in your life and have different focuses, you're still unevenly yoked. So it's just kind of backwards the way that they present that. But that's all I looked at, and it was damaging.
That is so true. Because I talk to people all the time that they were unevenly yoked, religiously speaking, but everything else was in line with each other. Yeah. But these individuals that I knew that were Jehovah's Witness women, they were so upset that, I just wish my husband would be a brother. I just wish that he could be like brother so-and-so. I wish he could be on the Watchtower fast track. And so they have a great relationship. The only thing was lacking was their husbands were not interested in becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. And so it was very devastating for these women. But then on the flip side, they didn't realize that the various witness women that were married to brothers were literally living in hell with these men that were called elders and servants and whatever other title you want to bestow upon these men. And their lives were terrible. And they just didn't realize that, So let's talk a little bit more. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, you made me think about one thing where this sister was like that whole relationship, wanting her husband to be an elder or wanting him to be a witness, but great relationship before that. But once he became a witness, things changed. Go figure. He became a different person when he became an elder, and he just got more domineering and more demanding, and just it's just like, wow, well, you want to go back now and have him be worldly now, don't you? So that was just a little interesting thing
Yeah.
I thought of.
As they say, be careful what you ask for.
Right.
Be careful what you wish for, right? Because you just
Right.
never know. You just never know what's lurking around the corner, right? But see, the thing is, when you're really thinking about it, her husband, he understood Watchtower culture, and he just got on the bandwagon with all the other men. Because I mean, you just become who you're around,
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So but let's talk a little bit about, how you got through your marriage. How long did your marriage last?
Altogether, I would say it was probably about 2 years, but after about 9 months, it ended. It ended. Like I got divorced 2 years later, like, legally. But before 9 months later, I was just at a crossroads with this man and with my life and with everything that was going on, to where I had to make a decision, because I just knew that I wasn't gonna be able to live with him, staying with him. It just wasn't gonna work. I was turning into a different person. So
Okay. So let me stop you right there. So from the time you got married to the time you woke up and said, hey, no more, it's like 9 months.
It's 9 months.
Okay. And so at that point, you wake up, you realize, hey, look, I can't do this anymore. So what is the next best thing for you?
Well, I didn't know, because of course, he hadn't cheated on me, right? So I was still bound to this man forever, according to the way witnesses believe. So I had to think about that. Like, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to be with him. I can't see myself being with him forever. So what's my options? I can't get divorced either, because he hasn't cheated. Or if I do get divorced, I could never remarry, because I'm still married in the eyes of Jehovah. So that's not going to work either. And I couldn't imagine myself never having an opportunity to get married or have children. So I was just in a very difficult emotional place, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And
before you get to that one part, let's meditate on something. Let's like marinate on the situation, what you're talking about.
Okay.
You're talking about you could not remarry if you got a divorce. So what does that entail? What do you mean you couldn't remarry?
Well, according to the way that they believe, the scriptures are saying that if your spouse has not committed adultery, then you have no grounds to get divorced. So if you do get divorced, technically you're still married in the eyes of God. And with that thought in my mind, I just couldn't figure out what I was going to do, because I knew I couldn't stay with him. That was not an option. It was not an option, because I was, in that short amount of time, I was turning into a depressed individual. I was sad. I was crying all the time. I didn't want to leave the house. It was just bad. It was bad. And so I knew that wasn't an option. But then I was thinking about not being able to get remarried because of that whole mentality, that didn't seem like an option, because I wanted to get remarried. And if I did just do that, I would be going against what Jehovah would want, meaning that I would be living in guilt the rest of my life as a witness if I just decided to try to get remarried and be happy. So it was just a lot of emotions going on there.
Okay, so you're looking at it from the angle of feeling guilt. So you never thought, because if you were to remarry, you would get disfellowship, right?
Yes, if I got remarried, yes.
But you never thought about being reinstated and being forgiven by
Well,
Jehovah?
I didn't think he would forgive me. I don't know what it was about that. I just never thought, I just thought he wouldn't forgive me because I made this decision willingly. I walked into it and I just felt like even if I did get disfellowshipped for it, that's just from them. But I'm looking at pleasing Jehovah. So my thing was, I still knew that in his mind, he would still be feeling like this way about me, that you did this and you are still married in my eyes. Like just getting disfellowship wouldn't make me unmarried, so I still just couldn't grasp that. I still was thinking of the guilt. I was still feeling the guilt of how Jehovah would be feeling about me.
That's amazing. And see, this is the kind of stuff that, people need to understand, that there's more going on with the situation than just somebody forgiving you because you're getting out of this bad relationship. And I think that's where people really need to understand that it really has nothing to do with being forgiven because you made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I hear this a lot. I hear this conversation a lot, where people are in bad relationships and they feel there's no way out of this bad relationship. And it's all because of the way that the Watchtower has indoctrinated its members to make them think that this person has to be bound to this individual for life. Because even the laws in the land allow you to get divorced, and move on. I mean, people make mistakes all the time, So
and that's
interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing, Lady C, with that. This is what made it so much more emotional, because I couldn't see how Jehovah would look at me this way. Even though I was the one feeling this way, I couldn't see how he would be so upset with me, because my whole reason for getting married in the first place was to be faithful to him. Like that was my whole thing. So I'm like, how could you really think that a young person trying to maintain their faith, getting married because of trying to, stay in line, that they would be, that they would have no second chance? Like, how could you be viewing it like that as the Almighty God? Like, I mean, I know that the religionist really was telling us that, but right. I just really viewed that their perspective of how God thought was really what it was. So it was just like, how could Jehovah feel like this? Like, this is so unfair, because I did it for all the right reasons and got myself in a situation. I had no idea that it was going to be like this. So it just made me upset, but it made me hurt also that it was just so cut and dry. Like, I had no choice.
It made no sense.
It made no sense.
Made no sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, because I know people that's been married to people for years and they want divorces, but they can't get it. And it's like, sometimes you got to just say, look, I'm going to cut this cord and I'm moving on, because I'm not going to keep living in this fear, obligation, and guilt situation where I can't just go on and live my life. And some people have decided to just go ahead and do it. And I also know people that will say this: they wanted to get a scriptural divorce. And so they went out and just had sex with somebody just so they could do that. And it's like, well, then why put yourself through all of this anguish and turmoil for no reason to go hook up with somebody you don't even know, somebody that you could probably get a disease from, somebody that could be just a devastating situation, just to satisfy the Watchtower's laws of getting a scriptural divorce? I mean, you could literally just go out and meet somebody, have a regular courtship that's with somebody that you really enjoy being with, and you actually have something in common with, and just date that person and get married. And then if they decide they want to disfellowship you because of that, at least you were with somebody you wanted to be with.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you said, the rationale makes absolutely no sense. And then especially because we know that, or we thought that Jehovah could read our hearts anyway. So to me, that actually, why would you just do that just to fulfill the scriptural part of it? Because he knows why you're doing it. And so to me, that's why something like that wasn't an option. But I did tell my husband that he could go do that. I tried to get him to go do that, but
yeah, right.
It doesn't work. But
yeah. So at the bottom line, what did you end up doing?
Well, as you see, this was a real crossroads for me. Many people might not see it that way, but that's how I felt. That's how I felt. And I didn't see leaving Jehovah. See, even though it's an organization, I still knew I'm leaving Jehovah if I leave. I just didn't see it as an option either. But I couldn't stay in the organization. So it was like I just didn't know what I was gonna do. I just didn't know what I was gonna do. So this is gonna be like a little bit, crazy, I guess you would say, or at least to me, it feels crazy to think about. But at the time, because I was so confused, my husband was out of town. And I ended up going to get some alcohol and getting some pills and attempting to take my own life. I actually wrote a letter and left it in the nightstand drawer. I wrote it to my family. I wrote it to myself, like my younger self, of, explaining all of this stuff to myself and, apologizing to myself. And okay, I don't want to start crying, but I did that. And I wrote the letter, even mentioning Jehovah, talking to Jehovah, talking about how sorry I was. And it's just so crazy to think about that all of that came from making a mistake, marrying the wrong person, which is just something that many people have experienced. But all of that brought so much anguish and so much confusion that I actually attempted to kill myself over that. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't see being in the world, and I didn't want to die in this horrific way in Armageddon. So it was just like, what am I going to do? So this was the option I chose at the time. This was the option I chose. But obviously I'm still here, so it didn't work.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say, well, you're sitting here talking to me right now, so obviously it was a failed attempt. I'm glad that it didn't happen. You weren't able to pull that off. But so then what happens when, okay, so you took your alcohol, you drank your alcohol, you took your pills.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to wake up?
It was probably about 24 hours. So I remember as I was crying and just apologizing to everybody and Jehovah and stuff, that I started feeling just like overwhelmingly tired. I just was like, and like I said, my husband was out of town. So I had put the letter in the drawer, just, for anybody to find. And I just started falling asleep, and I fell asleep. And then, I guess, he obviously woke me up. Because, well, I don't need to say obviously, but he ended up coming home from out of town, and he woke me up. And that's how I knew I had been asleep for as long as I had. It probably was a little bit over 24 hours, actually, when I think about the time. But I woke up and I was looking around like, what did I just do? And what is going on? Like, I was kind of disoriented. And of course, I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him that I just tried to do that. But at that moment, I just had that epiphany moment. Like, I got to get out of this religion. This is not Jehovah. This is not God. This is not love. This is not normal. This is absolutely insane. So I had that moment. It wasn't like I thought it wasn't the truth per se, but I just knew that I couldn't be there. I knew I couldn't stay in that religion. If it would make me go to such an extreme of trying to kill myself, I don't need to be there. And I don't need to serve a God that would but that would, his rules would be so rigid that it would drive me to do something so horrific. So that was my moment. And I just woke up and started figuring out how I was going to leave that man. That's what I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you woke up and said, okay, I realized, because did you still think it was the truth?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you said, okay, this might be the truth, but this is a truth I don't need.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
There ain't that much truth in the world to be going through this, right? So How long did it take you after, the episode before you got out?
It didn't take any time. That was my last, whatever the last meeting was that I went to before that, that was it. I never went back. Like, I'm probably, as in, like, within the last 4 years, I've gone to a memorial. But before that, I mean, at that point, that was my last meeting. And
Hold
I
on.
said,
You said 4 years ago?
well, when I went to the memorial.
Okay.
Okay, so let me back up.
How
Go
long
ahead.
has it been that you've been to the Kingdom Hall? I mean, I'm sorry. How long has it been that you tried to commit suicide?
20 years ago. So 2000.
2000. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so before that, that was my last meeting. Whatever I went to before that a suicide attempt was my last Kingdom Hall, you know, and then I didn't go from then on until about 4 years ago. I went to a memorial.
Got you. Okay, I see. When that happened to you 20 years ago, did you talk to any elders? Did your husband call for any assistance from anybody?
Well, he didn't know that I did that. He didn't know I attempted that. So he just woke me up. He just thought I was asleep. So I woke up knowing what had happened. I didn't tell him. I just knew I needed to make some moves. And I didn't tell any elders. I didn't even tell my parents for a long time after that. The only person I told was one of my best friends. Because I ended up moving in with her to just like get on my feet, excuse me. So I could just, you know, make my moves and do what I needed to do. But I didn't tell a soul besides her. And I definitely didn't tell him. I just told him, I don't want to be with you no more. This is it. And then he was just like, he didn't know what was going on because it was so abrupt. I knew that that's what I needed to do. There is no way that I'm about to be staying with him any longer and staying in that religion. That's what I came to at that point.
Right. Well, that was good then. So no brothers got involved.
Oh no, they didn't know nothing. And I just was inactive. I just stopped. I just told my parents, I'm not going to the meetings no more. They didn't know anything about why. I was just done. I'm just done. And they didn't, I had no explanation until years later. I finally told my mom what had happened. But
what about working? Did you work a job?
Yeah, I was working at that time. I was working at I don't know if I can say company names on here. So, I mean, I
wouldn't.
Yeah. So I was working at that time and I just was inactive. A sister actually got me that job. So once I became inactive, then she started ignoring me or acting, you know, real funny. But
oh my God. So you had to work somebody on the job, treat you bad because you left the church.
Right. What kind of stuff is that? But that's what we had. That's what I had going on. And I was just, I was working. I was able to just get, you know, move in with my friend for a little bit, then get my own place. And then that's it.
But see, the key to this whole thing, not just, I mean, not that I'm taking what we're saying, but okay, so, you know, it's very good that whatever you tried to do didn't work. And I know people talk about these type of things all the time about how they had failed attempts and stuff. And because really, you didn't really want to commit suicide. You really didn't want to hurt yourself, but it was just a cry out for help, you know? Were you able to retrieve that letter? I guess you were able to retrieve that letter.
I did. And I got it out the door immediately because I didn't want him to find it. He was going to be like, what is this?
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I just burnt that letter, ripped it up.
Right. Yeah. And I think one of the best things about, you know, your story, listening to what you're saying, is the fact that you were working and you had an option to move out with someone. Where the job that you had gave you that opportunity to move into your own place. Because you have issues where people, they don't have those options. They're not working a job and they would be stuck there with this man. Do you think that the kind of parents that you have, well, I guess I'm getting ready to answer my own question, because if your parents were going to be on your side and help you out, you would have probably moved back home. Why didn't you move back home?
Lady C, you know what? I'm telling you, so much went on back then that I forgot some details. So actually, that's what happened. I did move back with my parents for a little bit. I told them that I didn't want to be with him anymore. And I moved back with them. But they didn't know the details. But that was for a very short time. And then I moved with my friend. So I had forgot all about that. But they let me move back. But they was always trying to pressure me, like, you need to get back with your husband, like, what you got going on, that was what was going on with that. But they did let me move back. I think it was probably like 2 months or something like that I moved with them.
Okay. So you did have a reprieve, and then you were able to move from them on to somewhere else. Your friend, I'm assuming she's a Jehovah's Witness as well.
She was, well, she is again. She was definitely one then. She became inactive for years and years and years, and she just went back. So now she's not talking to me anymore. But,
oh my God.
Yeah.
But yes. So you're like going full circle here, right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
One minute you're helping me, next minute you're not. Now you're, So, but at the time, was she a witness and practicing as a witness at the time that she let you move in with her?
Actually, she was not. She was not. She was inactive. So, okay. But it was pretty recent. So she definitely was like, come on in, because I know what you got going on, because I just left there and I know what, even though it was for different reasons.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
somebody who had been through something, that understood something you were going through, that was willing to help you out when you needed them, exactly. Which is very rare in the Jehovah's Witness religion.
Exactly. And she was one of those who her mom wouldn't let her come back home. She had left, started doing her little stuff, wanted to move back home, but her mom felt like she was a bad influence on her younger sisters. So she wouldn't let her move back home. So she ended up getting in a bad marriage. So it's like, yeah, it's a very interesting with the guy that was worldly. So that was an interesting thing. So yeah, she definitely understood because she had been in a bad marriage and things like that. So
yeah. But what I find is that we're never given any advice on relationships. We're never helped to understand what relationships are about, what to look for in a person, how to, manage issues that come up in the marriage. And like in your situation, you said that you were dealing with somebody that had some issues. You said mental issues, I think, maybe probably just whatever was going on in his life, and a simple psychologist or therapist that could have just helped realign the thinking or whatever you're dealing with. But we're not given those tools. And so we're just put into these relationships just to try to work it out. And then the biggest thing that everybody has is wait into the new system. All of your answers, all of your problems will be solved in the new system. And then every day you wake up, it's like, well, that was 20 years ago. Where's this new system? That was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So, and in your case, didn't you say that after 9 months, you just couldn't be there? So can you imagine going through this for another 20 years?
No, I really wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't be here. Or I would be bald. Something, because it would just not work. I would not have been able to deal with him. And
right. That. So what would you have done differently now that you know what you know about this religion, about relationships?
Well, of course, definitely taking the time to get to know someone, and not just what their religious beliefs are, but their mental, their stability, their relationships with their parents and mother, whatever it may be, getting the background and getting to know that person. But if I happen to get into a situation with somebody that I just, found myself in a situation where they weren't who I thought they were and it wasn't working out, I would definitely seek counseling. I mean, I've gone to counseling at this point for some other things, but I would have definitely done that. And I would definitely suggest that even to witnesses, even though it's not suggested, just that is a wonderful tool and it's there for a reason. And I think it's an awesome thing for people to do, because you really get to see who you are and really know, really get to learn how to work through your problems and get through whatever it is that you're going through. So I think it's a wonderful thing.
Right. And now when you had left your husband, moved out, what was your thinking about the religion? Did you still believe this was the truth?
Absolutely. I mean, that's not why I left. It was never because of doubts. It was just that I just couldn't do that if it was going to affect me the way that it affected me with all of that guilt. So I still felt it was the truth. And I struggled for years because of that because of that belief. I didn't really live my life to the fullest. I didn't really take opportunities that I could have taken, or I didn't go to school like I would have wanted to. I mean, I went and then I would stop and then I would pursue different career opportunities because I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was all over the place because I always in the back of my mind had this, the end is right around the corner. So it was like, it was jacking up my focus. I couldn't really just focus on one thing and just see it through because I was always jumping around thinking, am I missing something? Am I going to miss out before the end comes? So I just couldn't get it together, and it was still affecting everything. I was always afraid. And, I said I left in 2000, I'm pretty sure. 2001, as we all know, 9/11 happened. So you already know 1 year later after leaving, I'm thinking 9/11, like that was the end. I was thinking that was the end.
Mhm.
And I was so upset. Like, how did I only get a year to just be out on my own, and living life? So it was, even though nothing major like 9/11 has happened over these years, it's been just different things around the world. I'm looking at world events, always thinking in the back of my mind, the end is coming, the end is coming. But at the same time, I felt like Jehovah can't really be like this. It really can't be like this. After meeting all these people out in, just in everyday life, seeing how they were godly, Bible believers and stuff, I just couldn't believe it. So it was kind of cognitive dissonance. I still thought it was true, but I just couldn't believe that he would really be like that. So it was that back and forth. And then I finally made peace with, I guess you would say, my own death. Just realizing, well, I guess I'm just going to die in Armageddon. So I just might as well make peace with that. That will make me have a happier life because I'm not always afraid of that. So once I did that, I just kind of started doing a lot more things for myself, living a little bit more freely and loving life a little bit more. And it wasn't until recently that I really, really came around to the fact that it wasn't true. It took a long time.
How long would you say that? Okay, so you said you left the Kingdom Hall and you decided, hey, look, I'm not going to practice this religion. That was in 2000.
Yep.
So in what year did you wake up to the real truth about the truth?
It was probably about 4 years ago. I had started doing research, but I never fully did it. I never fully completed it, I should say. And then I reached out to you, to your channel, and asked you something about interviewing me back then. And then you reached out to me and you said, when did I learn the truth about the truth? And then at that point, I was trying to explain to you how I thought that witnesses kind of had some of the truth because they're the ones doing the preaching and, all of these different things. I was trying to explain my I was trying to put the pieces together of the puzzle. And you said to me something that I would never forget, and I'm always be appreciative of. You have to just learn that you're not going to always have all the answers. And once you said that woke me up to just being okay with not knowing everything. And then it just propelled me to start doing more research to where I finally realized that this was not the truth at all. But it was just, I was trying to make sense of certain things that I just kept holding on to them being the truth. Once I let go of that, I just finally did my research. And then I said, whoa, this is, far from being the truth.
Absolutely. Because so many people are still they want to still have that lifeline to that Watchtower. Yeah. Well, it's the closest thing to the truth, Right. And so right. I always say this, I'm gonna give you this illustration. Okay, I got 2 bottles of water. Okay, I'm gonna do this in this interview. I got these 2 bottles of water here, right?
Yep.
And I got Watchtower here and with their so-called Christendom, right? If you could take and put falsehoods that relate to poison in each bottle. So if I say I'm going to put 5 drops of poison in Watchtower's bottle, but I'm going to put 10 to 20 drops of poison in this other bottle, which one of these bottles would you be willing to drink from?
Right.
They both got poison. Both got poison. None of them. Right.
Exactly. I'll drink the faucet water. So I that's a great analogy.
So So that's what I tell people.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to do a video about this like 2-3 years ago and I never did it, but now you gave me the little setup there. So I kind of like being able to do my little thing, but that's what that's my interpretation of when people say to me, they got more truth than these people over here.
Right.
Yeah. When you think about the deaths that they have caused throughout the years, for people not taking blood, you know, for people committing suicide because of the lies that they've told, you know, the kidney transplants that people couldn't get, or heart transplants, the skin grafts that they wouldn't let people get back in the day, all of that kind of stuff has maimed, hurt, and killed people, you know?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
so that I'm just so happy that, you know, you are a living testimony of a person who has been able to come through the fire, as it were, come out, you know, unscathed, you know, but you're still here and you're able to come out and talk about your experiences as an ex-witness. Not only that, but you have your own YouTube channel as an activist, and it's called I Am TruthSeeker. So for all of you who are here, you know, watching the video, please get a chance, you know, to go over to Tujuana's channel and check out her videos over there, because, you know, she's a very bright young lady. She's got a lot to talk about, and you'll enjoy her content as well. So, you know, and you're talking about a lot of your wake up moments over there too. So you'll get a chance to learn more about her and her experiences on her channel. But Tujuana, I want to thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Just one thing about the channel. I do want to say to anyone who comes over, I critique the Bible. Okay, I just want you guys to know I'm not just an XJW talking about JW things in the governing body. I'm talking about a little bit more than that. So just so you're aware and not completely, you know, shocked by that. Just wanted to add that in.
That's good. That's good. So I put a link to her channel in the video description, so get a chance to check her out. But Tujuana, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk about something that's very sensitive, that a lot of people may not want to just come out and talk about, you know, about their life experience, so that you can help other people. And so thank you so much for coming out and sharing your heart-touching story.
Yes, thank you for having me. I do hope that it touches somebody out there. It was difficult to talk about, but it was time. So I felt like what better show or channel to do it on than you guys' channel. So I appreciate you taking the time to interview me as well.
Yes, and we thank you so much. Appreciate it. So we'll be seeing. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this presentation, and we will see you on the next video.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.